Are the rest of you okay with 1:30? Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
Yes. I don't know if you hear me.
Yeah, I probably don't need this. So.
Yeah. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, I am very happy to be here, and I always feel at home and much more comfortable when I go to universities that are faith-based. Although I have studied in Tehran University, in Manchester University, and I'm active in the academic world, but I think this is where my soul is at peace, and I'm grateful to God that we have this relation with CMU, and I pray that God would bless you in the work that you are doing here. The concept that we want to reflect on is religion in the Qur'an. I am involved in Christian-Muslim dialogue since 90s. Before that, I was in Iran, and we have a small Christian population in Tehran and some cities. But when I went to Qom, I was just 17, and in Qom we didn't have any Christian population. But we studied Christianity, Judaism, other religions, and also because of my study of Western philosophy, so I know many Christian, theologians and philosophers, especially in medieval ages. But I didn't have first-hand experience of meeting and discussing and living together with Christians till I traveled to Manchester. I went there in 1996, to do my PhD in Manchester. And with my wife, we decided to use this opportunity to make friendship with Christians and know more about Christianity and share our love for God together. So we embarked on something that in the beginning we could never see that it's going to become like now. We just out of curiosity wanted to meet people and visit some place of worship and seminary, but we were very open and very serious and tried not to miss any opportunity to visit and meet, and so we started making friends in UK, then expanded to Italy, then other countries, and then North America. And some of our friends are friends that we know each other for more than 20 years, some of them 15 years, 16 years. And my idea is that we should never lose friends. I go rarely to official interfaith meetings, rarely. Recently, with some Christian friends, for example, we had a panel in World Parliament of Religions in Toronto a few months ago in November. Sometime, for example, I've been to World Congress of Religion in Kazakhstan, but that's my rare kind of practice. Because sometimes people go to these sessions, they don't know each other, they meet each other for a few days, and then they never meet each other again. And this is very limited. I like to know people and remain friends forever. So this is why we know Harry, Ed, and other people for many years, and we use any opportunity to meet each other. Sometimes people, for example, ask me, what brings you back, for example, in Italy. We were just a few days ago in Italy with Mahnas for 2 days. I said, I don't need reason to visit my family. I feel it's my family. I have to visit them. And sometimes, you miss your friends. It's a sign of your friendship that you must miss each other if you don't see each other. So we got into this world without being trained, without having experience, without having any kind of formal support, any kind of, advice. But we try to be open, honest to our partners and honest to our faith, and ask God for guidance. And thanks to God, it just grew. And I didn't do that much publicity because I don't want to draw unnecessary attention to our work, because it can sometimes make some people confused, misunderstand. But little by little, our work became something that you could not hide it. So February 2017, Abbot Timothy and I received an award from Iran's president. And I'm very happy, especially because Abbot Timothy was ill and he was treating cancer, and then he passed away last year. But about a year before he passed away, so we received this award from Iran's president for the first time. There was a special award in Book of Year for interreligious dialogue. We have published many books with Catholics, 6 volumes. With Mennonites, we have published a few books and some issues of Conrad Grebel Review. And we have had lots of courses. So thanks to God, it has been very rich experience for us. And we didn't just practice, we also were very, very much thoughtful of what implications these relations have in our theology and also in our spirituality. Because your mind and heart should also grow so that you can accommodate all these things. And I am very much concerned about anything that I do or say should fit my theological, philosophical system. Otherwise, it's like you go to your room, and if something is not in its place, you get disturbed. So I have my theological and philosophical principles that over years, from my teenage, I have developed. So I am very loyal to my theology and philosophy, but I think my theology and philosophy have to be young enough to grow. They should not limit me. They should, grow with this experience. So one of the things that I have been thinking about is the Quranic concept of religion. And just a few days ago, I had this presentation in Waterloo for the Lutheran Seminary. And before that, also in December, I presented this in Taranto, northern Italy, in a project we have together with some Catholics called Wings of Unity. So this is the third place that I am actually presenting this. To set the ground, I would like to start with this point, that whenever we read books on religions or attend courses on religions, we get the impression that as if the existing religions have come from heaven like this. And in particular, what I'm talking about, Abrahamic religions. We think as if from the beginning, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam were designed and planned and introduced as separate religions. Judaism has its own founder, Christianity its own founder, Islam its own founder, and there is a clear distinction between them as religions. Sometimes even we get the impression that even denominations of the same religion are totally distinct, to the extent that some people from the same faith cannot believe that people of another denomination of the same faith belongs to the same religion. They think they are actually infidels. And sometimes they think they are worse than infidels. Not only they are not faithful, they are worse because they have deviated. It takes time to realize that you can disagree with someone over certain theological, for example, issues, but still recognize each other as people of the same religion. You can be Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, or, for example, Sunni Muslim, Shia Muslim, and be loyal to your theology, but at the same time recognize that that person is also a true Muslim or a true Christian. It's not easy to understand this, but after some changes in your vision, then you easily accept that. My idea is that the same is about different religions, Abrahamic religions. For us, it's very difficult to think of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism as three branches of the same religion. Because we are, from the beginning, introduced to these three as three separate things. And many times, maybe boycotting each other or even fighting each other, and at maximum, just tolerating each other or respecting each other, but never thinking of each other as members of the same family. My idea is that God has only sent one religion, and all prophets and messengers invited humanity to one religion. But over time, we have given different names to them. You know, sometimes I use this example. Of course, every example can help, but also can be limiting. You know, suppose we were people who were climbing the same mount, but you are climbing from the eastern side and the other people from western side. And eastern side, for example, is facing sea. Western side is facing, for example, a forest. When you climb this mountain and you explain to each other what you see is totally different. Yeah? You say, you know, when we go higher and higher, we see more and more water. The other people say we see more and more trees. If you didn't know that this is the same mount, you think that you are climbing different mounts. And imagine now if some people do the same thing, but some people travel during the day, climb during the day, some during the night. It will be more diverse. So, unless you reach the top of the mount and can see that actually this mount has, you know, all these sides, you feel that you are totally different in climbing. Rumi has a beautiful example. He says some people were sent to a dark room and they were asked to describe what is there. Some people said there is a pillar. Some people said there is a bed. Some people said there is a fan. Some people said there is a pipe. The reality was that it was an elephant. Each of them were describing based on their experience. The one was, you know, touching the leg of, said, the pillar. Someone, the back said it's like a bed. Someone, you know, the nose said it's a, sorry, the ears said it's a fan. You say fan? So, they were not wrong, but they were limited in their description because they were limited in their experience. Or another story is that three people were traveling together. One was Farsi speaker, Iranian, for example, or Afghani. One was Arab, one was Turk. They were discussing what should we eat for lunch. One said angur. One said inab. One said uzun. So they were fighting over this because they said, no, I cannot eat anab, I should eat, angur, or say grape, for example. Then after fighting, each wanted to do what he wanted, for example, and they were and purchased what. Then there is the same thing. They were fighting but unnecessarily. Today you see sometimes people fight over, whether we should say God or Allah. There are people who attack each other. So, for example, some Christians say Allah is different from God. Some Muslims attack Christians, say, God is different from Allah. In one country, they took some Christians to the court. Why you use Allah? You should say God, not Allah, because you are confusing people if you say. Not knowing that these are a matter of just language. I'm not saying they are exactly the same in meaning, but I'm saying the language. If you read Arabic Bible, always says Allah. All Arab Christians, they don't say God, they say Allah. So, we, based on our experiences, sometimes describe the same thing in different ways, and then we think we are dealing with different realities. My understanding is that God has sent only one religion. All prophets, we believe there were 124,000 prophets. Not everyone had a book or had a message of his own. Some preached the existing message or book, but they all were receiving revelation. So these 124,000 prophets, they called people toward the same thing. They all called people towards God, towards devotion to God, obedience to God, avoiding worshipping themselves or idols or serving Satan or doing selfish things or satanic things. The message was the same. For example, the Qur'an says, لَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنْ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. We have sent to all nations messengers to worship God and to avoid the devil. This is the core message. أَلَمْ أَحَدْ إِلَيْكُمْ يَا بَنِي آدَمَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا الشَّيْطَانَ إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ وَأَنِ اعْبُدُونِ هَذَا صِرَاطٌ مُسْتَقِيمٌ. The same message. God reminds us of a covenant, the covenant between God and children of Adam, that we should not worship Satan, he's our clear enemy, and we should worship God, and this is the right path. It's the same message. So, reflecting on this, first, I started talking about concept of book in the Quran. Actually, I had a presentation in CMU maybe 2 years ago about concept of the book in the Quran. And although we say there is Torah, there is Injil or Gospel, there is Quran, there is Psalms, but it is very interesting that the Quran treats them as one book. In several places, God says, لَقَدْ جَاءَتْهُمْ رُسُلُهُمْ بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَالزُّبُرِ وَالْكِتَابِ الْمُنِيرِ. God says messengers brought people manifest signs, clear signs, miracles, for example, scriptures, and then it says illuminating book, not books. Rasul is plural, but doesn't say Rasul brought, messengers brought different books or illuminating books. It says illuminating book. In many places, the Quran talks about book, not books. But sometimes God talks about books. And sometimes people say, why then? Sometimes it's book, sometimes it's books. For example, one description we have about Lady Mary is that God introduces Lady Mary as an example as a role model. And among descriptions is that صدقت بكلمات ربها وكتبه. Mary affirmed words of her Lord and his books. Or the Quran says believers believe in all the messengers and books. My understanding is that it is true to say these are books because what is in hands of people and minds of people is books. Torah, Gospel, Injil, Quran, Zabur, Psalms. These are books in the hands of people. But what God sent, Ja'atum Rasulum, what messengers brought is book. So one book sent, but what people believe to are books. But you should believe in all the books. The same is now about religion. First of all, interestingly, unlike books and book, in the Quran you never find religion in plural form. We don't have adyan in the Quran. In the Quran we have religion always in singular form. Then what we have in the Quran is that we are introduced to two religions. But never Quran uses religions in plural, but talks about religion of truth and religion of falsehood. Which you can say in a sense it's not a religion. But for some people it's religion. For example, there is a famous chapter in the Quran about infidels, al-kafirun. Unfortunately, many people, even some Muslims, they don't understand Quranic usage of infidels. In the Quran, most of the time when kafir is used, infidel, it doesn't mean any non-Muslim. You cannot say Christians are infidels, Jews are infidels. No. We have a special terminology, category for Christians and Jews. We have a special category for idol worshippers. We have a special category for infidels. It's not that every every non-Muslim is infidel in Quranic usage. In jurisprudence, you may have another terminology. According to Quran, kafir, infidel, in most of the cases, unless there is a kind of evidence which suggests some, because sometimes kafir can mean someone who is not grateful. Even a Muslim who is not grateful is kafir, it means ungrateful. But if there is no special evidence, according to Quran, and according to what Allama Tabatabai in his Al-Mizan, which is one of the most important, and for the Shia is the most important exegesis of the Quran, he says, in most of the cases, kafir in the Quran means someone who knows the truth and deliberately rejects the truth and also fights against the truth. This is the meaning of kafir, not every non-Muslim. Many non-Muslims are not kafir. So, there is a chapter in the Quran called Al-Kafirun. It starts with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ. Say, O infidels. But please bear in mind, these are not Christians. These are not Jews. These are not Zoroastrians. These are not Sabbaites. These are idol worshippers, pagans, who knew the truth because they had very close contact with the Prophet. They knew the Prophet. One of them was actually related to the Prophet. But they didn't believe because it didn't suit their purposes. Because they were gaining lots of money, lots of power by association to the idols. Because people from all over Arab Peninsula and even from outside used to go to Mecca to worship these idols. So, although this was a place for worshiping God and restored by Abraham, but over years, unfortunately, they started keeping idols inside this place for monotheism. They transformed it into a place for worshiping idols. And they used to get lots of money because pilgrims went there and they had to buy things from there. Even they had made it a kind of necessary condition. If you go for pilgrimage to Mecca, this is pagans, rule. You cannot use your own dress. You have to buy dress from Mecca. Otherwise, you have to go naked. This was for business. So, these infidels who knew the Prophet and his truth and his background, his ancestors, God says to them after many years of trying to open their hearts, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ لَا أَعْبُدُ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ. Tell them, I don't worship what you worship. You worship idols, I don't worship idols. وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ. And you don't worship what I worship. وَلَا أَنَا عَابِدٌ مَا عَبَدْتُمْ. Again, I don't worship what you worship. لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينِ. Okay, let's not fight. You have your religion, I have my religion. Even with these people, God says, tell them, let's not fight. You keep your religion and you answer to God on the day of judgment. I keep my religion. Lakum dinukum. For you is your religion, for me is my religion. So this is where we have a contrast between two religions. But we never say religions in plural form. Your religion and my religion, which indeed that religion is not religion, because that is idol worshipping and indeed worshipping their own ego. Because religion is that when you submit yourself to a transcendent reality which is higher than you. But when you submit yourself to your own ego, you are actually going down. Religion should take you up, not bring you down. So, there is one religion which is pleasing to God. If you look at this verse that some people have misunderstood, verse 19 of chapter 3, it's on the board also. إِنَّ الدِّينَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الْإِسْلَامِ. There is only one religion with God in the sight. That is Islam. What does it mean? It means submission to the absolute truth. Islam was the religion of Abraham, Ishmael, Jacob, Joseph, Moses. All prophets called towards one religion. Now, I would like to request you to reflect on this verse, which for me is one of the most important verses in this discussion. It's very dear to me. 125 of chapter 4. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ دِينًا مِمَّنْ أَسْلَمَ وَجْهَهُ لِلَّهِ وَهُوَ مُحْسِنٌ. Who is better in his faith or religiosity or religion than a person who submits his face to God? You know, in Bible, we have this concept of face of God and seeking face of God. We also have this concept of seeking face of God. Religion is a matter of submitting your face to God. And those who submit better to God, they have better religiosity, better faith, better commitment. But also, وَهُوَ مُحْسِنٌ. When you submit your face to God, you should do good. You cannot be faithful and do bad or fail to do good. A sign of commitment to God is that you do good. You bring good to people. You bring good to your family, to your community, to society, to humanity, to environment. وَاتَّبَعَ مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ حَنِيفًا. And follows the tradition of Abraham, the path of Abraham. And then God says God chose Abraham as his friend. You know, we have both this concept that Abraham was Khalil, was friend of God. In Palestine, there is a city called Al-Khalil, because Abraham was Khalil, was friend of God. You know, when you read this verse, you don't see any trace of Islam being a new religion. Islam is not a new religion. And this is only one of the verses. I had a series in Qom. Actually, I gave it in the shrine of the Lady Ma'asuma in Qom. Abraham, the founder of Islam. Prophet Muhammad didn't found Islam. Prophet Muhammad is calling back everyone to the tradition of Abraham. But now, I think even it's better I don't call it Abraham, the founder of Islam, because Abraham himself didn't found it. This, in a sense, is Abrahamic. We call it Abrahamic faith, but even Abraham followed Noah. The Qur'an says, "Inna min shi'atihi la Ibrahim." One of the followers of Noah was Abraham. So Abraham followed the same path of Noah, and Noah followed the same path of previous. So from Adam up to Prophet Muhammad, we have one religion. You never find any prophet says, "I brought you a new religion." Sometimes I ask my Christian friends, do you have any place that Jesus says, "I am bringing a new religion"? I don't think there is any place that Jesus says, "I bring a new." Or Moses says, "I bring a new religion." Or Jacob says, "I bring a new religion." None of them says, "I bring a new religion." The maximum might be that they sometimes introduce new laws, new practical laws maybe. For example, one prophet maybe didn't talk about certain rulings about eating or drinking or financial transactions. Maybe later they mention this. But no one says, "I bring you a new religion." This is a misconception that people think religions can be abrogated. Religions are not abrogated. Some practical laws might be for certain timing. When the timing expires, another set of law or another item of law can be introduced. You know, we have a very technical issue in our jurisprudence, which is very helpful for interfaith. You know, if a Muslim jurist has no way to verify whether a certain ruling is valid or not, you know, we have to refer to the Qur'an, we have to refer to the Sunnah of the Prophet, we have intellectual also rules. But suppose you tried all of them, you couldn't verify this rule Islamically. But you knew that this rule existed in the time of Jesus, for example, or Moses, or Abraham, or Jacob. They had this rule. So Muslim jurist says that we can apply a principle, asalatu adam al-naskh. It means that we establish, we suppose that the ruling that existed at that time still is valid. Even for rulings, practical rulings, unless it is proved that it has changed, we should assume that it is continuing. If something was done, or was eaten, or, you know, anything that they did at that time, and we don't know it is permissible for us or not, or anything which was prohibited for them, we don't know it's prohibited or not, we assume the same ruling is continuing. We never say their code of law, their Sharia, which is code of law, not religion. Their code of law is totally expired, abrogated, and a new code of law is given. No. Even for practical laws, it's a matter of one by one, because it is the same religion. And when it comes to outside law, which is theology, spirituality, it's even more stable. theology doesn't change. No prophet changed theology. No prophet changed spirituality. Maybe they talked more. Maybe they introduced new dimensions. Maybe they went deeper. But they never changed our theology. They never, for example, said that one prophet says God is merciful, another says God is not merciful. One says God is living, another says God is not living. One says God is one, another says, God is two, for example. No. They all have the same theology, especially from the time of Abraham. Everything has become more and more, clarified. So, you see, we are all to submit our faith to God and do good things and follow the path of Abraham. In Quranic understanding, Judaism was not supposed to be called Judaism. This is the name that historically was given to this element. Christianity was not supposed to be called Christianity. It was a name that was given to. Then when Islam came, some people wanted to call it Muhammadian religion. But this was not accepted. We call it Islam, not as a third religion. No, at the sense that we go back to the same original name. We don't want actually name. Why we should have a name? The main thing is reality. Are you submitting to God? Are you obedient to God? Are you a God-fearing person or not? Okay, if you are a God-fearing person, you are in the same boat, the same river, the same tradition. Theological differences are there. Because till we come to agreement, till we are convinced, we should keep these theological differences. But you can have all these differences. You can be Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, Sunni, Shia, Reformed Jews, Orthodox Jews. You can be all these things, but at the same time, we all should submit ourselves to the same God. We should be truthful. We should be God-fearing. We should be bringing good to people. We should love God and love for the sake of God. So the way I understand the Quran is that there is only one religion. When we say one religion, it's not in the sense that Islam, in narrower sense, is one religion and other religions are expired or abrogated. No. When we say there's one religion, it means there is one way that humanity can move towards God and perfection. It has taken different colors, different manifestations, different representations. We have given it different names, but it's one thing. One of the things that I think can be deceptive is when we give name to something. Giving name helps you because then easily you can refer to. But sometimes giving name can forever leave a mark of separation. Many times, for example, why we have these sects and different, schools, denominations in Islam and Christianity. Why? I think many times because we gave them name. So sometimes an issue was very hot among some people. In order to distance themselves from each other, they gave it a name. Then later, forever, they look at each other differently. Oh, you are this group, we are that group. If we don't give different names, then sometimes it's easier to see that we are the same group. Name can sometimes cause partition. This is something that we have to be very careful. For example, maybe now even among, for example, some Shia, maybe we have some differences of opinions. But I am very hesitant to consider this as a new form of Shia Islam or as a new, school or new sect, because these differences maybe after one generation become insignificant. Maybe we can find it. But if we now divide over this, Forever this can remain. We become 2 sects. Then 2 sects become 4 sects, 4 become 8. So, in the same way that we should go back in our same faith to our roots, in different Abrahamic traditions also we should go back to the same root, not forgetting our differences right now because we have to find solution. We have to find what is the truth. But don't let these differences stop you appreciating that you belong to the same tradition. You follow the same God. You have to work hard on your heart, on opening to the truth, being submissive to the truth. Another verse that I have several verses, but maybe this is my last verse so that we can have discussion, is this verse, which is also very much discussed about end of time and can be sometimes misunderstood. هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. Verse 33 of chapter 9. It is he who has sent his apostle, his messenger, means Prophet Muhammad, with the guidance and the religion of truth, that he may make it prevail over all religions. But in Arabic it's not religions, in English it's translated, in Arabic it says all religion, though the polytheists should be averse. So a very common way of understanding this verse is that this verse is promising, is giving the good news that in end of time there will be only Islam. Either no other religion or all other religions would be ruled by Islam. Islam would be dominant. This is the way many people understand. But the way I understand is, it's not about Islam in narrower sense. It is about religion of the truth. It's not true religion. It's religion of the truth. It means that any person who is following the truth, who is trying to be truthful, is adherent to this religion. If a Muslim is not truthful, he is not adhering to this. So we have religion of the truth, and opposite to that is religion of falsehood. And therefore, at the end, it says, even if polytheists might be not happy. Doesn't say even if Christians and Jews might be unhappy. So Muslims, Christians, and Jews are in the one camp. People who believe in God of Abraham are one camp, if they are really submissive to God. If they are not submissive to God and they are more polytheist, and just on the surface they are pretending, that's another issue. But any person who is really dedicated to God, obedient to God, belongs to the same camp, same tradition, and same religion. So my conclusion is, and there are many other verses, but I think it's enough for our discussion, is that we have one God, one humanity, and one path for salvation, one path for perfection, and that is to move towards God. And in order to move towards God, you cannot move physically. You move towards God by opening more your heart. Our ladder that we should climb is how much you are opening your heart. The more we open our heart to the truth, we are closer to God. And it's only one path. We should move from darkness to light. We should move from badness to goodness. From violence and cruelty and war and tension and conflict to respect, to understanding, to loving, to mercy, to charity. This is one way. There is no other way. You cannot say, no, I want to do something other than doing charity and mercy and kindness. I want to go another direction other than going from darkness to light. There is only one way. So I hope this kind of approach would help Muslims and non-Muslims to appreciate more common God that they have. If someone asks you how much you share with someone who believes in God, give a percentage from 1 to 100. If someone believes in the same God, God of Abraham, how much you share with him? From 1 to 100. I think people give different answers. Some people say, we share 10% because there are 9 other things that I believe and this person doesn't believe. Some people say maybe 50%. But I think the way you answer to this question is very much dependent on the way you relate to God, and the way God is central in your heart. If for you God is the most important thing, and there is nothing next to God, even small, anything should come under God, then how can you say that when someone shares with you God, that we agree 50% or 10% or 60% or 7%? I sometimes say, if someone really serves God, 99% we share. If suppose a prophet comes today, Abraham comes today, what do you want to do with Abraham? Do you want to convert Abraham? You say, I don't share with you a lot. It's a big question for people, Muslims, Jews, Christians. If Abraham comes, do you consider Abraham as a person that has to go through formation? Is a new religion? Or you believe that Abraham is my role model? We have the same religion. So if we appreciate more the central position that God should occupy in our mind and heart, I think then we more appreciate our unity. The more we go away from God, I think the differences become more and more, outstanding. It's like in the night, you see billions of stars. But when sun starts shining, stars are there, but none of them would be able to draw your attention. You remain focused on sun. When God starts shining in our heart and mind and life, then you become more and more able to see everything with the light of God, and you see unity. Not that everything becomes the same. Not everything is equal. But when you look at it in a godly way, you can only see in everything reflection of God. More or less, but all reflection of God. Thank you very much for your attention. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. Thank you.